why independence? I mean, in a way, it's sort of the inverse of all of the arguments I made
Exactly.
against statehood, right? It's
Yeah.
Puerto Rico is a nation. It was invaded. It's been occupied. It's been colonized. I think nations deserve to be free. I think nations deserve self-government. I think it's the only way for Puerto Ricans to govern ourselves in a way that is consistent with who we are as a people and with our values. And right now we have, incredibly concrete examples of what the consequences are when we can't do that. You know, Puerto Rico as a colony right now, and obviously it would be the same as if it were a state, doesn't control its own immigration policy. Only, the federal government controls immigration policy. So what does that mean? It means that we have, ICE and Homeland Security raiding Puerto Rican communities every day, rounding up our Dominican and Haitian and Cuban and Venezuelan brothers and sisters, and taking them away. So we can't even decide who gets to live on our own land.
Right.
That's a consequence of colonialism, and it would be the same under statehood, just like it's happening in, California and in all these other places where maybe the state's governor doesn't like it, but it's up to the federal government. So it's just one example, but I think a really relevant one of why the sovereignty of a nation is so important to be able to make those decisions. It's important to be able to safeguard our identity and our culture so that we don't you know fall prey to the assimilation that comes with annexation. Um, you know, Independence would give us a lot of the economic tools that Puerto Rico currently doesn't have, um, and again wouldn't have as a state because they're tools of independent nations, of countries. So signing trade deals, controlling our ports and our territorial waters so that we can establish duties and port fees and set tariffs. Um, the ability to be free of things like the Jones Act, which would remain if Puerto Rico were a state, because again, the Jones Act is a law that applies to everywhere. It just affects Puerto Rico more because it's an island, but it's a federal law for every state. Um, and even things like the Interstate Commerce Clause and these other federal laws that govern, what states can do economically. There was one analysis that suggested that Puerto Rico could make up to $20 billion more a year in exports
Wow.
if it were not subject to the Interstate Commerce Clause. So these are only things that can happen, um, under independence. And then finally, to this point of what's politically feasible in the United States, again, it's kind of the opposite of the argument against statehood. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's easy to get to pass a law for independence tomorrow to get 60 votes for it in the Senate, but I do think it's a lot easier than with statehood because you do have Republicans who, even if it's for racist reasons that we don't like, would just love to stop sending money to Puerto Rico.
Right.
They think that's throwing money down the drain, like sending food stamps to some people in the Caribbean. Like, why? Why do that?
Right.
And again, Republicans especially are scared that if Puerto Rico became a state, they would elect more Democrats to Congress, and that obviously hurts them. Well, the only way to stop that from ever happening is to just get rid of Puerto Rico, right? Like that eliminates the threat of statehood forever. So I do think independence is actually more politically feasible in Congress as well, and that's a lot of the work that we do at Boricos Unidos en la Diaspora, but PR, making the argument to both Democrats and to Republicans that this is something that Puerto Rico needs, that's good for Puerto Rico, and that would be good for the United States as well, because you know having a colony in the 21st century is not a great look. Yeah, for sure.